If I tell you who betrayed your family, will you let me survive the night? Those were the first words I ever said to Ethan Calloway. Rain streamed from my hair onto the marble floor of his mansion, while 6 armed men watched me like they were waiting for permission to make me disappear. Behind me, thunder shook the iron doors. In my right hand, I held an old leather suitcase. Ethan said nothing. That was worse. Everyone in Chicago knew the stories. Ethan Calloway never shouted, never threatened twice. Men disappeared from his organization after disappointing him, and somehow his suits remained immaculate. He stood beneath the staircase in a charcoal shirt, sleeves rolled once, gray eyes fixed on me. Then his gaze dropped to the suitcase. Name: Maya Bennett. Wrong answer. My heartbeat stumbled. I tightened my fingers around the handle. It's the only name I'm giving you tonight. One of his men stepped forward. Ethan lifted 2 fingers. The man stopped instantly. That frightened me more than a gun would have. Ethan approached until only the suitcase separated us. 35, maybe. Dark hair. Controlled face. Silver cuff links despite the late hour. He studied the mud on my shoes, my soaked coat, the cut across my palm. You crossed 3 security checkpoints, he said. I was allowed through. No, his voice was almost gentle. You were watched through. Of course. I swallowed. He had wanted to see where I would go. Straight to his door. Open it. I shook my head. For the first time, something changed in his eyes. Not anger. Interest. The truth first, I said. Shelter second. Suitcase third. A man behind him laughed once. Ethan didn't. You arrived at my house carrying something you think I want, and now you're negotiating. I arrived carrying something men have already killed for. Silence. Rain hammered the windows. Ethan's attention moved to the fresh tear in my sleeve. He had noticed. Of course he had. Who followed you? I don't know. Another wrong answer. I breathed carefully. A black Lincoln followed me from Milwaukee. It changed plates outside Waukegan. 2 men. They stopped following 12 minutes before I reached your gates. Ethan turned his head slightly. Cole. A broad man near the doorway touched his earpiece and disappeared. No questions. No hesitation. Power here moved quietly. Ethan looked back at me. What's in the suitcase? Proof that Nicholas Vale didn't betray your father 18 years ago. For the first time, Ethan Calloway moved. Barely. His thumb brushed the edge of his silver cufflink. But I saw it. So did every man in the room. Nicholas Vale was a dead name. A traitor's name. And I had just spoken it inside the house built by the family he supposedly destroyed. Ethan came closer. My sister died because of Vale. That's what Daniel Mercer told you. The room changed. One guard reached beneath his jacket. Ethan's eyes became frighteningly still. I should have stopped. Instead, I gave him the sentence Rebecca had made me memorize before she died. Claire Calloway survived St. Vincent. Thunder cracked above us. Ethan stared at me. Then Cole's voice burst through the earpiece. Boss, we found the Lincoln. A pause. Both men are Calloway. My stomach dropped. Ethan didn't look surprised. He looked confirmed. Slowly, his eyes returned to my suitcase. Then to me. Lock the gates, he said. Every door in the mansion clicked shut. I had come asking the Mafia Boss for one night of protection. Only then did I understand the truth. The danger had arrived before me. If those men were yours, I said, then either you ordered them to follow me, or someone in this house is lying to you. Nobody moved. That was the terrifying thing about Ethan Calloway's men. Ordinary people reacted to accusations. They frowned, shifted, looked at each other. These men became statues. Ethan watched me across the marble foyer. Cole. His lieutenant touched his earpiece. Bring them to the West Room. Separately. Take their phones before they know we found the car. Ethan's voice never changed. No anger. No surprise. Just decisions. Then he looked at me. You're coming with me. I asked for shelter. You got it. He turned toward the staircase. I didn't agree to an interrogation. Ethan stopped. You walked into a Mafia boss's home carrying the name of his dead sister. His gray eyes found mine. What exactly did you expect? Fair point. I followed him. The library upstairs smelled of cedar, old paper, and smoke from a dying fireplace. Ethan closed the door behind us while 2 guards remained outside. My suitcase stayed between my feet. He noticed that too. What did you mean when you said Claire survived? I meant she didn't die at St. Vincent. That isn't proof. No, what is? I touched the suitcase handle. This. His jaw tightened. Open it. Not yet. A strange silence followed. Then Ethan crossed to a cabinet and poured one glass of water. He placed it in front of me. Not whiskey. Water. You're shaking. I'm freezing. You're afraid. That too. For half a second, something almost human crossed his face. Then it vanished. I drank. Rebecca Bennett raised me. I said. 6 months ago she died. Before she did, she gave me this suitcase and told me never to open it unless someone came looking. And someone did. 3 weeks ago. Who? I never got his name. Ethan's eyes sharpened. Describe him. 60s. Gray hair. Burn scar behind his right ear. He asked whether Rebecca left me anything from Claire. Ethan went completely still. That scared me more than shouting could have. You know him? I know the scar. Before I could ask, the door opened. Cole entered carrying 2 phones and clear evidence bags. The men claim Mercer assigned them surveillance duty. Daniel Mercer. The name Rebecca had warned me about. My fingers tightened around the glass. Ethan saw it. You recognize that name? No, your pulse does. I hated how carefully he watched me. Cole placed one phone on the desk. There's more. He unlocked it. Photographs filled the screen. Me leaving my apartment. Me boarding a train. Me buying coffee in Milwaukee. Then one taken yesterday. My suitcase. Beside the photograph was a message. Don't let her reach Calloway. Ethan read it twice. Sender. Burner. Trace the relay. Quietly. Mercer hears nothing. Cole nodded and left. I stared at Ethan. You don't trust your own underboss. I trust evidence. Briefly, I wondered what it cost a man to live like that. Trusting nothing. Testing everyone. Ethan sat opposite me. Now opened the suitcase. I knew the moment had come. My hands trembled as I released the first brass latch. Then the second. Inside were photographs, a ledger wrapped in oilcloth, 3 cassette tapes, and an envelope yellowed with age. Ethan reached for it. I caught his wrist. Every guard outside seemed to move at once. Ethan didn't. His eyes dropped to my hand. I released him. Sorry. He opened the envelope. A photograph slid onto the desk. Claire stood beside Rebecca beneath a motel sign. A handwritten date marked the bottom. 3 days after St. Vincent. Ethan stopped breathing. Then he turned the photograph over. 4 words were written on the back. In Claire's handwriting. Ethan read them aloud. Daniel knows I survived. My name isn't Maya Bennett. Ethan didn't react. That was somehow worse. Claire's photograph remained between us. Her handwritten warning facing upward. Daniel knows I survived. Rain pressed against the library windows while Ethan leaned back in his chair, gray eyes fixed on me. What is it? I reached beneath the photographs inside the suitcase and pulled out a folded birth certificate. Rebecca had hidden it beneath the lining. I had found it 6 months ago and hated it ever since. I placed it beside Claire's photograph. Ethan read the name. Mara Vale. His expression didn't change, but his thumb moved across his silver cuff link. Nicholas Vale's daughter. Yes. The man accused of betraying my family had a daughter who vanished after St. Vincent. I know. And she walks into my house 18 years later using another name. I didn't choose the name Maya. Rebecca did. You chose to lie tonight. That landed harder. Yes. Why? I pulled a second envelope from the suitcase. Rebecca's handwriting covered the front. For Mara. Only when they find you. She made me promise. Ethan opened it. One sentence. If a Calloway recognizes what Claire left behind, hide your name until you know which Calloway he has become. His eyes stayed on those words. I expected anger. Instead, he asked, what did Rebecca think I would become? I think she was afraid you'd become your father. Something cold passed through the room. Then Ethan looked toward the ledger. Your father supposedly sold my family's routes to Vincent Vescari. So I've been told. Men died. So did my father. His eyes lifted. Neither of us moved. For 18 years, our families had apparently given us opposite versions of the same grave. Ethan reached for the ledger. This time I didn't stop him. The pages were filled with dates, shipment numbers, initials, and coded transactions. Most meant nothing to me. One thing didn't. Rebecca taught me that notation. I pointed to tiny triangles beside several entries. She used the same marks when cataloging restoration records. Ethan turned the book toward me. I traced the pattern. Every triangle preceded money leaving Calloway-controlled accounts, not entering Nicholas Vale's. Leaving them. He wasn't stealing, I whispered. Ethan understood immediately. He was tracking someone who was. A knock interrupted us. Cole entered. His face told me something had happened. Boss. The surveillance team you sent to the false address got hit. Ethan's eyes hardened. Earlier, without my knowing, he had apparently fed different locations to different men. A trap. Which address leaked? Halstead. Ethan went silent. Cole continued. Only Mercer's office received Halstead. My skin went cold. Daniel. Not proof. But close. Ethan rose. Lock internal communications. Nobody contacts Mercer. Nobody moves money without my authorization. Cole nodded. Then I noticed something beneath the ledger. A photograph stuck to the oilcloth. I pulled it free. Claire. Rebecca. My father. Behind them stood a warehouse wall marked with faded numbers. 1140. And beside Claire's shoulder, written in blue ink, DM Ethan took the photograph. His face became unreadable. Then my phone vibrated inside my wet coat. Unknown number. One message. You should have kept your father's name buried. A second arrived before I could breathe. Leave Calloway House, or Ethan learns what Claire did to save you. I looked up. Ethan was already watching me. What does it say? For the first time that night, I understood something terrifying. Someone wasn't trying to keep Ethan from discovering who I was. They were terrified he would discover why I existed. Don't delete that message. Ethan's voice stopped my thumb above the screen. I handed him the phone. He read both messages once. No curse. No visible anger. Only that small movement of his thumb across the silver cuff link. Then he photographed the screen with his own phone. Cole. The door opened almost immediately. Trace it. Don't contact the number. I want whoever sent it to believe she's frightened enough to leave. She is standing right here. I said. Ethan looked at me. Are you? Yes. Good. I stared at him. Fear keeps intelligent people alive. 2 hours later, I understood why Ethan Calloway didn't believe in coincidence. He created them. He gave 3 different men 3 different pieces of false information about me. One heard I had fled south. Another heard Ethan had destroyed the ledger. Daniel Mercer's office received something else. That I had remembered where Nicholas Vale kept his private records. An abandoned freight office on South Morgan Street. At 3:12 a.m., Ethan's surveillance team watched 2 vehicles leave a company connected to Secre and head directly there. Daniel had taken the bait. Not proof, Ethan reminded me, but another fracture in a wall that had stood 18 years. By sunrise, we were inside the real location. Rebecca had written the address on the back of an old tax receipt hidden beneath the suitcase lining. The building smelled of dust, rust, and wet concrete. Ethan brought 4 men. He stayed in command. 1 covered the entrance. 2 cleared the upper floor. Cole watched the alley. Nobody moved until Ethan told them to. I found the records behind a false wooden panel. Restoration work teaches you something useful. Old things rarely hide their damage well. Inside sat 6 accounting books wrapped in plastic. The symbols were familiar. Triangles, circles, tiny blue crosses. Rebecca's catalog system. Except it hadn't been hers. It had been my father's. I spent 40 minutes decoding the first ledger while Ethan stood beside the broken window, receiving quiet updates about Secre movements. Then the pattern appeared. Money had disappeared from Calloway accounts 18 years ago. Nicholas hadn't received it. He had followed it. Through shell companies. Into businesses connected to Secre. My father wasn't selling your routes. Ethan came closer. He was investigating whoever was. I looked at him. For 18 years, Nicholas Vale had been remembered as a traitor. And Ethan Calloway had built part of his empire on that belief. His jaw tightened. I was 17 when they told me what he'd done. You didn't create the lie. No. His eyes remained on the numbers. I only punished people for 18 years because I believed it. There was nothing I could say to make that smaller. So I didn't try. For once, silence between us didn't feel threatening. Then glass shattered downstairs. Ethan moved before I did. He pulled me behind the brick partition while his men sealed the stairwell. No panic. No wild shooting. Orders. Positions. Control. 3 minutes later, Cole returned with blood on his collar that wasn't his. One alive. The captured man refused to identify himself. Ethan crouched in front of him. You knew we were here. Silence. Ethan placed one recovered phone on the floor. You weren't sent for Mara. The man smiled through a split lip. No, my stomach tightened. Ethan's voice dropped. Then why? The man looked past him. At the books in my hands. Mercer doesn't care about Vale's daughter. He laughed once. He wants the ledger. Ethan became completely still. Then the man added. Because Nicholas wrote down who really ordered St. Vincent. Claire trusted the man who betrayed her. Ethan said it so quietly that the words felt colder than the warehouse. The captured man had been taken downstairs. Cole's team was already stripping his phone, vehicle, and contacts for anything useful. Ethan didn't waste time threatening him. He wanted evidence. I wanted answers. We found both inside Nicholas Vale's ledger. One sequence appeared repeatedly beside the missing Callaway money. SV, 1140. St. Vincent, 1140. But beneath the final entry was another number followed by Rebecca's Blue Cross. I recognized it. A storage account. Ethan looked at me. You're sure? Rebecca used these codes for archived property. By noon, Ethan had traced it to a private records company outside Chicago. The original account had closed 14 years earlier, but its contents had been transferred twice. Rebecca had paid every storage fee until 6 months ago. Until she died. That meant she had wanted something preserved. For me, we arrived after Ethan's men cleared the building. The box waiting inside was small enough to carry beneath one arm. 18 years of lies should have weighed more. Inside were 7 letters tied with faded ribbon, all addressed to Ethan. His hand stopped above them. Claire's handwriting. I knew it from the photograph. Ethan untied the ribbon. The first letters were ordinary. Apologies. Fear. Instructions to stay away from St. Vincent. Then Claire's words changed. Nicholas found money moving through our accounts. He thinks someone inside is selling routes to Secre. Another letter. Nick is not betraying father. He is trying to prove who is. Ethan read that sentence twice. His face remained controlled. His eyes didn't. I sat beside him. You were 17. He stared at the page. I spent 18 years hating your father. You believed what they gave you. I became very good at believing it. That was the first time I heard regret in Ethan Callaway's voice. Not weakness. Something heavier. I didn't touch him. I simply stayed. After a while, he opened the 6th letter. Claire wrote that Nicholas had gathered enough evidence to expose the leak, but someone had discovered their investigation. Someone close. Someone trusted. Then came the final letter. Ethan, if this goes wrong, don't believe what they tell you about Nicholas. Rebecca has Mara. She knows what to do. My breath caught. Mara. Me. Ethan looked at me, but neither of us spoke. He continued reading. Daniel says he can get us out through the south route tonight. He promised father will never know until we are safe. Ethan stopped. The room seemed to shrink. Daniel. Not merely someone who knew about Claire's escape afterward. Daniel had planned the route. St. Vincent, the abandoned freight depot where the ambush and fire had happened 18 years ago, sat on that route. Ethan stood and called Cole. Get me every Callaway movement from that night. Vehicles, guards, dispatch records. Quietly. A pause. And Daniel. Daniel learns nothing. He ended the call. I looked back inside the box. One envelope remained beneath the letters. Unsealed. Empty. On the front, Claire had written 3 words. For Ethan only. Someone had removed whatever was inside. Then Ethan's phone rang. Cole. Ethan listened without speaking. His face changed. What? I stood. He lowered the phone slowly. The original South Route order still exists. Who signed it? His gray eyes met mine. Daniel. I exhaled. That proves he sent Claire there. No, Ethan's voice became colder. It proves something worse. He turned the document toward me. A second authorization appeared beneath Daniel's signature. Approved 11 minutes later. By Ethan's father. Ethan stared at the name. My father knew Claire was going to St. Vincent. Your father didn't send Claire to die. I shouldn't have said it. Not yet. But Ethan had been staring at Patrick Callaway's signature for almost a minute, and I could see 18 years of buried anger rearranging itself behind his eyes. You don't know that, he said. Neither do you. His gaze lifted. 11 minutes, I continued. Daniel authorized the route first. Your father approved it afterward. That proves he knew about the route. It doesn't prove he knew what was waiting there. Silence. Then Ethan folded the document. Carefully. You restore damaged things for a living. Yes. Does that make you professionally incapable of leaving anything buried? Pretty much. Something almost became a smile. Almost. Then his phone rang. The relief lasted 3 seconds. Daniel Mercer had called an emergency meeting of Callaway captains. Without Ethan's permission. By 6 that evening, I understood what a mafia war looked like before anyone fired a shot. It looked like 12 men around a walnut table refusing to meet their boss's eyes. I watched from the adjoining office through security glass. Daniel stood at Ethan's right hand, exactly where a trusted underboss belonged. Before we discuss Vescary, Daniel said, there's something this family deserves to know. A photograph appeared on the screen. My birth certificate. Mara Vale. My stomach dropped. Daniel had found it. Nicholas Vale's daughter is inside this house, he said, and our boss has given her access to family records. Voices erupted. Ethan remained seated. Still. Controlled. Dangerous. Daniel turned toward him. Tell them I'm wrong. Ethan adjusted one silver cuff link. She is under my protection. The room went silent. One captain stood. You're protecting a traitor's blood? Ethan's voice lowered. Sit down. The man sat. Immediately. Nicholas Vale's guilt is being reviewed. Ethan continued. Until I finish that review, anyone who touches Mara answers directly to me. Not Maya. Mara. He had used the name I had spent 6 months fearing. And somehow, from him, it didn't sound like an accusation. Daniel smiled faintly. You're risking loyalty for a stranger. Ethan looked at him. No. I'm discovering which loyalty was counterfeit. Daniel's smile disappeared. After the meeting, I confronted Ethan in the corridor. Did keeping me here just cost you power? Power doesn't disappear because 12 men become nervous. You know what I mean. He stepped closer. I do. Then stop deciding what risks I'm allowed to take. His jaw tightened. I'm trying to keep you alive. Protection isn't ownership. That landed. For several seconds, the most feared man in Chicago simply looked at me. Then he removed a keycard from his pocket. My penthouse. Private elevator. Guards stay outside. He placed it in my palm. You decide when the door opens. That was the first time Ethan gave me control instead of protection disguised as control. An hour later, I entered the penthouse alone. Nothing was broken. Nothing stolen. Yet a photograph waited on the dining table. Claire. Rebecca. Daniel. Taken beside a roadside motel. My pulse accelerated. The date was 3 days after St. Vincent. Claire had survived. I turned it over. 5 words were written across the back. Ask Ethan who survived the fire. Then I noticed something worse. The handwriting wasn't Claire's. It was Rebecca's. And beneath the photograph lay the missing page from Claire's final envelope. One sentence had been circled in red. Mara must never learn why Claire chose her. Claire Calloway chose me. The words felt impossible even before Ethan said them. He stood across the penthouse table, staring at the missing page I had found beneath Rebecca's photograph. For once, his silence wasn't intimidating. It was shock. No, I whispered. Ethan looked at the photograph again. Rebecca wanted you to ask who survived St. Vincent. Claire survived. We already know that. For 3 days. He pointed to the motel photograph. But we never proved what happened after. I felt suddenly cold. Ethan moved immediately. Within 20 minutes, he had people searching Rebecca's property records, vehicle registrations, hospital aliases, anything connected to the 3 days after the fire. He didn't comfort me with guesses. He investigated. At 11:16 p.m., Cole found something. A cabin outside Lake Geneva had been rented 18 years ago under one of Rebecca's old aliases. Ethan looked at me. We go together. This time, it wasn't in order. 2 hours later, rain followed us into Wisconsin. The cabin had been abandoned for years. Ethan's men cleared it first, then waited outside while we searched. I found the recorder beneath a loose floorboard. Not luck. Rebecca had carved the same blue cross into the wood that she used in every hidden record. Inside the compartment were 2 cassette tapes. Ethan found an old player in the storage room. The first tape hissed. Then Claire's voice filled the cabin. Ethan stopped breathing. Nicholas is dead. She whispered through 18 years of static. Daniel knew where we were going. He sent men to St. Vincent. My knees weakened. Claire continued. Rebecca got Mara out before they closed the south exit. Patrick didn't know. Daniel used his authorization after telling him we needed protection. Ethan closed his eyes. His father had approved the route, but Daniel had weaponized it. One question answered. A worse one opened. Claire coughed on the recording. If Daniel finds Mara, he'll know Nicholas made a copy. Ethan looked at me. What copy? I don't know. The tape clicked off. The second recording was shorter. Claire sounded weaker. Rebecca, if I don't make it, don't tell Mara until she's safe. My hands began shaking. Then came the sentence that changed everything. She deserves to know her father never betrayed either family. I couldn't breathe. Ethan stared at the machine. Claire continued. Nicholas gave Mara to Rebecca because my name could get them through the south checkpoint. Daniel was hunting every veil he could find. If Mara survives, tell her Nicholas died protecting the truth and protecting her. My father. Nicholas Vale had not abandoned me. He had placed me in Rebecca's arms because keeping me close would have killed me. Ethan turned slowly toward me. You were the child Claire died protecting. The room tilted. Ethan looked at me as if 18 years of grief had suddenly acquired a face. Why me? I whispered. Because Nicholas trusted her, he said. And because she refused to let Daniel erase the last person connected to the truth. Nothing between Ethan and me became simpler, but one danger disappeared. Claire was not my mother, and Ethan was not my blood. What remained between us was choice, fear, trust, and something neither of us was ready to name. Then Claire's voice returned through the static. One more thing. The evidence isn't in the suitcase. Rebecca knows where Nicholas hid it. I froze. A memory surfaced. Rebecca standing over the small blue painting in our apartment. Never restore this one, Maya. Never replace the frame. I looked at Ethan. The blue painting. His phone rang. Cole. Ethan listened. His expression hardened. What happened? He lowered the phone. Your apartment is burning. My stomach dropped. The painting. Gone. He paused. Security caught the man who took it. Vescary. Ethan's gray eyes went cold. No, he turned the screen toward me. I recognized the face from the meeting. One of Ethan's own captains. And 5 minutes earlier, that captain had entered Daniel Mercer's private garage. Daniel didn't steal the painting because he feared what was inside it. Ethan stared at the security image on his phone. He stole it because he thinks we don't know. I looked at him. Know what? That he's already lost. By sunrise, we were back in Chicago. I expected Ethan to attack Daniel immediately. He did something colder. Nothing. Daniel's accounts remained open. His men kept their positions. His captains received their usual instructions. Ethan wanted him comfortable. Then, from the library, he dismantled Daniel's power one piece at a time. 3 compromised captains were quietly removed from sensitive routes. 2 shell companies lost access to Callaway money. Every southern shipment was redirected. Daniel's communication network was mirrored instead of shut down. Why let him keep talking? I asked. Because frightened men hide. Ethan adjusted his silver cufflink. Confident men communicate. By noon, Daniel had contacted Vincent Vescary twice. Ethan smiled without warmth. Then he sent Vincent something Daniel never expected him to see. Bank records. They showed Daniel had been stealing from Vescary too. The enemy beneath the war finally had a shape. Daniel had spent years feeding both families enough betrayal to keep them fighting while he built his own network underneath them. If Callaway and Vescary destroyed each other, Daniel inherited what remained. My existence had threatened 18 years of preparation. Not because I was Claire's daughter. I wasn't. Because Claire had helped save Nicholas Vale's daughter, and Rebecca had given me Nicholas's trail. That afternoon, Vincent agreed to a neutral meeting. He wasn't an ally. His 6 armed men made that clear. But greed recognizes betrayal quickly. Mercer sold me Callaway routes 18 years ago, Vincent said. He told me Nicholas Vale was responsible. Ethan's expression remained still. And St. Vincent? Vincent hesitated. Mercer gave us the location. Vale was supposed to be there. My sister was there. I didn't know. Ethan leaned forward. For one terrible second, I thought the room would explode. Instead, he asked, what is Mercer planning now? Vincent slid a phone across the table. A message from Daniel. Callaway falls Friday. Your territory follows Saturday. Daniel planned to eliminate both bosses. Bigger than revenge. A takeover. Back at Ethan's mansion, I kept thinking about the blue painting. Rebecca's warning returned. Never restore this one. Never replace the frame. Then I remembered. I did replace it. Ethan turned. 6 months ago. The wood had warped. Rebecca got furious. Where is the original frame? My pulse jumped. My studio. Ethan had the building secured before we arrived, but he deliberately left one monitored service corridor looking vulnerable. The only path Daniel's people could enter without realizing they were being funneled into a trap. The old frame was still wrapped in brown paper behind my restoration cabinet. I ran my fingers along the wood. One rail felt heavier. Inside it was a narrow metal tube. Microfilm. Bank transfers. Names. Payments linking Daniel to Vescary intermediaries and Callaway captains. And one final recording. Claire. If Ethan hears this, Daniel killed Nicholas. He arranged St. Vincent. Patrick never knew. Ethan lowered his head. Then Claire said something softer. Tell my brother I never abandoned him. His eyes closed. Only for a second. Then every light in the studio died. My phone lost signal. The elevator stopped outside our floor. Footsteps entered the hallway. Several. Ethan calmly copied the files to a drive and placed it in my hand. Stay behind me. No, his eyes met mine. You said you'd stop deciding alone. A beat. Then Ethan handed me the second drive. Office stairwell. Cole knows the route. Metal scraped outside. The lock was being forced. Ethan adjusted his silver cuff link. No fear. No panic. Just the Mafia boss Daniel had spent 18 years underestimating. Good, Ethan whispered. What? His gray eyes settled on the door. Daniel finally came somewhere I wanted him to be. Daniel had already lost before he opened the door. I just didn't know it yet. The lock broke. 4 men entered first. Daniel Mercer followed them into the dark studio, wearing the same calm expression he had worn beside Ethan for years. His mistake was believing calm belonged only to him. You should have given me the girl, Daniel said. Ethan stood between us. She has a name. Daniel smiled. Which one? Maya, Mara, Vale, Calloway. For 28 years, other people had decided what my name meant. Not anymore. Daniel's gaze found the metal tube. Claire always complicated things. Ethan's voice dropped. Nicholas died before St. Vincent. Daniel's mouth curved. No. He was still breathing when my men reached him. The silence that followed was absolute. Ethan had fed him a lie, and Daniel had corrected it. So your men were there, Ethan said. Daniel's smile vanished a fraction too late. Ethan continued. Claire died in the fire. Not in the fire, Daniel snapped. She survived long enough for Rebecca to escape with the child. Me. Claire had died protecting me. Daniel had just confirmed 2 facts Ethan had never given him. Daniel stepped closer. Your father was weak, Ethan. Nicholas was going to replace me. Claire chose him. So I gave Vescary enough information to start a war. And spent 18 years feeding both families. Building something stronger. Daniel looked at me. Then she brought the past back. Ethan almost smiled. No, he removed his phone. You did. The screen illuminated. Accounts frozen. Daniel's shell companies seized. His compromised captains identified. Vincent had received proof that Daniel planned to destroy Vescary next. And before the studio lights died, Claire's files had been transmitted to 3 separate locations. Daniel stared at him. You knew I was coming. I needed you to believe the evidence was still vulnerable. Ethan glanced toward the dark hallway. The service corridor was never a breach, Daniel. It was an invitation. Footsteps sounded in the stairwell. Cole. Calloway men. Not Daniel's. One by one, Daniel's guards lowered their weapons. His empire had disappeared while he was standing inside ours. Daniel looked at Ethan with naked hatred. You destroy your family for Vale's daughter? Ethan glanced at me, then back at him. She's the woman Claire died protecting. Silence. And I'm not destroying my family. His voice became almost gentle. I'm removing the man who did. Daniel was taken away without spectacle. That somehow felt more final. 3 months later, Ethan still ruled Calloway. He didn't become innocent. Men still lowered their voices when he entered rooms. Rival families still measured every word around him. But Daniel's network was gone. The war with Vescary had settled into an uneasy boundary neither boss trusted. And Ethan rebuilt his organization knowing exactly which ghosts had built the old one. I rebuilt something too. My studio. On my new documents, I kept every piece of myself. Maya Mara Bennett Vale. Nicholas gave me life and his name. Claire gave me a chance to survive. Rebecca gave me a future. None deserved to disappear. One evening, Ethan came to the studio carrying the old suitcase. He placed Claire's brass key beside it. It belongs to you. It belonged to her. She protected it for you. I looked at him. And what are you protecting now? His gray eyes held mine. For once, Ethan Calloway had no strategic answer. So I stepped closer. Not because he ordered me. Not because I owed him. Because I chose to. I kissed him softly. When we separated, his forehead rested against mine. Outside, Chicago glittered beneath the rain. The city still belonged to Ethan Calloway in all the ways that frightened people. But I finally understood his silence. It wasn't emptiness. It was where he buried everyone he had failed to trust. Until me. Ethan could close every door in Chicago with a single command. But the strangest thing about loving him was that he learned to leave one open for me. He ruled the city. I was never something he owned, rescued, or inherited. I stayed because I chose him. And he finally learned that trust only mattered when the door remained open. I became the truth his silence could no longer bury.